Hello everyone, welcome to another Starcraft 2 replay. So it's going to take place on Slag Pits. J. Liu is typing up the long version of good luck, have fun. Cool. Anyways, I'm the red Terran Ketroc spawning in the 6 o'clock position. At 12 o'clock is J. Liu. We'll go with J. Liu. I don't know how to pronounce that quite properly. But yeah, he's the blue Terran. And this is a ladder match. I find my TvT has slowly been going downhill. Kind of as the standard Zerg is a little better versus Ravens than the old Zergling Baling Muta, which isn't standard anymore. But that's been compensated by the fact that I seem to be winning all my TvTs for some reason. There's a couple of small tweaks I've done to keep it a little bit better and a little less able to just die to something stupid at the beginning, but yeah, I don't know what really the difference. It doesn't seem like there's a big difference in my play. I'm just having a lot of success of late. So I still go for the wall off versus Terran. I know that's not standard in TvT. There's just not a whole lot of point to it. But when you're going for like no ground army like I am, I'm always afraid of just blue flame Hellions able to just walk right into my base and kill everything, so I go for the wall off. He's going more for positional structures just to give a little extra vision to his base. And this is something I've been doing of late that I find really helps. I take the Xel'Naga tower if there's a key one, and then keep a Marine right outside of his base. This way I get lots of heads up if a push is coming. And looks like his scan, let's see what he saw. Not sure if he caught wind of that starport. Nope, saw nothing in that corner, and I hadn't started this starport yet, so we're in good shape here. I start my second starport a lot later now, just because I like to go for an engineering bay versus Terran quite early. Because, and here comes a push now, just some Marines, which allows me to do stuff like this, get a bunker up in time, because, you know, sometimes I just lose to a handful of Marines and Hellions right at the start. It's happened before. Engineering bay, yes. When I open for this Banshee harass build, basically if he goes blue flame Hellion drop, I lose. It's like the hardest counter there is. You'll have nothing to defend, you'll lose everything. So I've kind of played around with like bunker placements deep and getting Marines in certain places and trying to intercept with Vikings. But I found there's really no way to beat blue flame Hellion drop besides just not letting it drop in your base. So I delay my expo, I delay my second starport a little bit. Now that gives me the minerals to get up an engineering bay and some missile turrets. However, these are kind of clustered close together. I don't need them quite this close to cover the side. So here comes my Banshees, and we just missed vision, and there's a blue flame Hellion drop. The one thing I fear is the one thing that's coming. So I am going to get in here and do some good harass, but at the same time we'll cover what's happening with blue. He's moving in, and having scanned me, he found the weakness in my base. And here he comes in along the bottom, and pause it here. 3 turrets was enough. I could easily have put this turret down here, and maybe this turret right here, and that turret where it is right now, and that would still completely cover this side. I got a bunker here, I got a missile turret here, which will later help defend this expansion. So basically the only hole in my base would be coming straight in, and no one ever comes straight in, and if they did, he'd be walking right into my Banshees. So this is going to be unfortunate. We bring up, you can see my count is just dropping and dropping and dropping, as I was not microing any of that. Finally pulling some SCVs now. Looks like I've saved 3 of them, but yeah, that did not go well. However, he just finished cleaning up my attack, and you can see his harvester count's low as well. So if we bring up the income tab, it's 5 harvesters versus 9, which is really bad. I mean, even though it's only a difference of 4, it's still double the harvester count, which means he's going to have double the income, and that can compound. However, I do have another command center, so that's my one saving grace where he doesn't. However, it looks like he is moving in here. I'm going to even save that mule, so I get to live another day. And now he's putting up a lot of pressure on this command center. Good thing Hellions can barely hurt command center. So however, it does have 2 Vikings and a Raven, so I'm going to have a lot of trouble taking that out. Planetary Fortress is getting low. And I'm barely able to hold. Probably looked like it got down to maybe 200 hit points or so. But it finished, and I got the fortress up. And now we're going to be able to mine from 2 bases. And we can see on the income tab, we're more or less back to even now. However, go to army tab, you can see it's 24 over 42. So he still has twice my army. Now even a couple of Banshees. Nope, one that was mine. It just died. So, 1 Banshee. Just hiding around the range of this turret and trying to get one more up. And he did snipe a few SCVs there. Let's just back it up a touch. I didn't actually get to see that kill count. Still didn't get to see it. Yeah, so I killed 3 SCVs. One of the advantages of the fortress is that it's higher threat priority than SCVs. So, as long as the SCVs aren't attacking or repairing. So he would have to keep manually focusing SCVs, and the fortress would go soak up all the shots if he doesn't, which is nice. Looks like he's falling back once again and getting up an expo of his own with an orbital for himself, which will give him a little higher marine count. Actually, a lot higher marine count, but that's alright. I don't really go marines with this build anyways. And we're just focusing on Vikings right now, because obviously if you're going a Sky Terran build, you have to have air control, and right now he has air control. He had like 3 Vikings to my none, so I got to get that air control back. And Terran, it looks like he's actually going for a mass mech build. I've been seeing this a lot from the pros on major tournaments and whatnot. And it seems quite effective. A lot of Blue Flame Hellions, a lot of tanks, and then a handful of Marines and Vikings. So it looks like I finally got air control, so I can maybe start mixing in some Banshees. Eventually I go battle cruisers, but I really don't have much of an income at this point. Normally I'd be at 3 fully saturated bases right now. Still actually only pumping from 2 starports, so just getting on my first armory at the moment. And yeah, it looks like he came in and fried a bunch more SCVs, so yeah, just creating a little supply depot wall to prevent that from happening again. Those Blue Flame Hellions can be really annoying, especially once they get a good cluster of them, because like one good volley could kill like a whole ton of your mineral line. One nice thing is though, I am repairing my air between every battle where he isn't doing repairs, and I find the repairs but one of the keys to this strategy that makes it really, really effective, especially on battle cruisers. If you survive like with a battle cruiser having like 50 hit points and get to repair it to full after the battle, that's like 350 damage done by your opponent that did absolutely nothing to hurt you. Getting excited again, but I can see him pushing it once more, so I'm going to try to intercept with my Vikings. Just kind of trying to stay outside the range of the Marines. And sniping down his Viking count. Although I did lose a few Vikings of my own, especially the reinforcements. But if we bring up the army, no, units tab. Yeah, I still got 5 Vikings to his 1, but my entire attack force is 3 Marines and 2 Banshees, and that's it. Trying to get my 3rd. Fortress is going up. Oh, that kind of hurt. What was that, like 4 mules? Ouchie, let's slow it down a bit actually. I seem to always do my replays and fast forward for some reason. So got Banshee kind of hanging out in this area, just going to keep an eye on his expansion attempts. However, he did take the gold. I actually scouted this area and saw that there was no rocks. Well, I scouted this area, but I didn't notice that there was no destructible rocks anymore. Obviously, if you see destructible rocks blown out, you should assume that he blew it out for a reason, i.e. to expand there. See what's going on back here. Finally throwing down my 3rd starport and my 2nd armory. If you're broke, I like to just get 1 armory just for the armor upgrades since they're the most important. And then once you get a bit of an income going, you can start working on your attack upgrades. And in fact, with 1,000 in the bank, it's actually a good thing I'm getting at the starport count, because I'm going to be able to afford it, and especially having taken this third base now, I should be able to afford even more. Kind of a mistake in my play I often notice is that I only get the production once I notice I'm pulling up resources, but I should be able to anticipate pulling up resources. Like when you take an expansion, you should say, okay, I'm taking this expansion, once it's saturated, obviously I'm going to be have all this extra money I didn't have before, so maybe in preparation for that, I'm going to build a whole bunch of production. So get down like your extra production buildings before your expansion's actually saturated. So he comes in again with a decent Viking flock. Let's see now, it's 9 versus 8. Plus he has Marines and the Raven, so this might not be the best for me. And a siege tank. Oh, that's some really bad micro there. I was trying to keep continuously poking and fire off shots, but the volleys were only ever coming from 1 or 2 Vikings. I was turning back too quickly. But one advantage I have to this position is that I got a lot of SCVs nearby to repair, so I can always fill up between battles here. I did get his Raven down, which is nice. So I'm going to come in with my Banshee now. However, he still has a good Viking count, so every scan it's going to be an instantly dead Banshee. 2 more Banshees on the way. Kind of just using the Vikings as a distraction, just so I can get that tank down. There we go. Without that tank, he's going to have a lot of trouble moving in. Looks like he's going to try to suicide some Hellions, but once again, the higher threat priority of the fortress is really paying off. His first couple of volleys, he targeted SCVs. The next couple of volleys, he was just on attack move, so it naturally targeted the fortress and didn't finish off any of these SCVs. Looks like the SCVs I had left over on auto repair are just going to be repairing each other now. So where that could have been a whole lot of dead SCVs, the fact that I had a fortress made it, or just the threat priority, the fortress alone made me it safe, and obviously the fact that it has a giant cannon on top made this whole push a little bit safer. And now attempting to move out for my 4th. My opponent has taken the high yield, so his mineral income should be higher than mine. Oh, this could be to do with mules. Well, no, he's actually mined out his first base, where I have also mined out. Yeah, his income should be higher. There it goes, now it's higher. It was probably just, I just happened to call down a bunch of mules at that time. So it looks like he's going to be shutting down my 4th here. Trying to save it with my my own Vikings, but ooh. I had the higher Viking count, but he's got a bunch of Marines here, and there was the point defense drone, and I just had a fresh batch of 4 more Vikings coming in. So I'm going to actually lose my entire Viking force here, which isn't good. Trying to get as many kills as I can before I go down, which I kind of did, but we bring up the army tab, or units tab now. Yeah, 7 Vikings versus 0, which is not good because I've just started my battlecruiser production, and now I have no way to protect my battlecruisers. Yeah, battlecruisers versus Vikings battlecruisers will always lose because they're slower and smaller range, so the Vikings can just kite them forever. And that's why you need, if you're going to use my strategy, you have to have a higher Viking count than your opponents, or at least an equal Viking count. So throwing out some missile turrets now, just to keep these Banshees a little bit safer, or keep these battlecruisers a little bit safer, because right now there's no reason he couldn't just fly right over this base with his Vikings and completely destroy these battlecruisers. I do have my 2 armor upgrades though, which is nice. And looks like I'm about to be 1-3. And And up to 4 starports, and even got a reactor on one. I can see that my opponent is trying to own the air. At least own the anti-air with all those Vikings, so I'm getting the reactor on the 1 starport just to try to keep my Viking count super high. And if we bring up the production tab, you can see I'm building, yeah, nothing but Vikings right now. Just trying to max my Viking count because that's the one thing I'm lacking if I ever want to push out. I gotta beat this many Vikings. So it looks like he's taking his... Ooh, is that landed correctly? It almost feels like it could be 1 notch further north. No, maybe it's just my head. That's actually probably correct. Oops, that Viking did spot this base, but was not being microed at all, so quickly died to that missile turret. And my attempt to take my high yield looks like it's going to be stuffed. My army is way out of position, protecting my 3rd. And even with the speed upgrade, or the patch that increased the speed of battlecruisers, they're still slow as crap. They're really not good for having good map coverage. Looks like this guy went to BlizzCon or whatever it was, where he gets to get the cool Thors. Look how awesome that thing looks. Well, it's not going to look cool for much longer, because I was double tapping them with Yamatos. Now Thors are like 400 hit points, right? So the first Yamato does 300 damage. And the second one only does a mere 100 damage. So you say, well, the second Yamato is kind of a waste of money, right? Because you're doing 300 damage to a 100 hit point unit. But in a battle like that, I like to just get the Thors completely out of the way with the Yamatos, and then focus on the Marines with my battlecruisers. And if you just put 1 shot on every Thor, because it's more efficient, none of the Thors actually die. So they're still going to hang around for the entire battle. So I think it's worth double tapping them. Even though it's not as efficient, it lowers the DPS of his army, which is kind of what you need to win those battles. So this is what I was talking about. He's trying to kite me with the Vikings, but as long as I have Vikings of my own, it's not going to work out well for him. So I'm trying to send my battlecruisers towards my intended target, which is over here, at the same time keeping tabs on his Vikings with my Vikings. And in terms of Viking counts, bring up the units tab. Yeah, it's his 14 to my 9, but I'm up to 3-2 upgrades now, where he's only at 2-1. He actually did a good job of getting a high Viking count and even upgrading it. That's something I often don't see. Usually I got a gigantic upgrade lead. In the last battle, even though it'll look even, will be completely one-sided because he won't have the upgrades and I will. Sniping some Vikings with Yamato, that definitely helps lower the count as well. Did I just see that right? Put her in my eye there. 1 more Yamato. Alright, blew away my own battlecruiser with Yamato cannon. There's Ketroc Micro at its finest. However, I did eventually whittle down his Viking count to, looks like 0, and took out his 3rd base and all those missile turrets. And I even got a nice little cluster of SCVs nearby, so I'm repairing all this weakened stuff back to full. I think repair is almost a must with this sort of build because you're going to be so far behind in army counts that you need to be super efficient with the army you do have. Like, often the first time they push my base with like the Marines and tanks and Vikings, their army count will be at least double the size of mine. Like, if we bring up the army tab, their spending will be at least double as mine. But with the fortress and a little bit of Banshee micro, you can often hold that push right off, or at least keep it at a stalemate until you get battlecruisers out. So he's had to switch to pure anti-air, so it's going to be all Marines and Vikings. Yeah, these earlier factories aren't really in play anymore. I guess seeing Yamato cannon doesn't really want to get Thors. His bio is only 1-0 though, and that means they're doing 7 damage per attack, and with 6 armor on battlecruisers, that means they're actually only doing 1 damage per attack. So that's why you can see a whole pile of stim Marines and still barely does any, just kind of tickles my battlecruisers a little bit, and that's about it. And with that, that is the end of this match. Yeah, so if you do this build, and if there's any chance of a blue flame drop, like obviously if you scout early and you scout a bunch of barracks, you probably don't have to worry about blue flame. But if he's doing the 1-1-1 build, like if he has 1 barracks and went straight into factory, I would definitely be afraid of it. You got to get missile. Well, at least in my opinion, you got to get missile turret defense. Because if you're opening Banshee, I just die. I just flat out die to blue flames, and the only way I can defend blue flames is by never letting it land. So obviously I have better missile coverage than me. You don't need the missile turrets this close to each other. Have this one down here, here, and maybe even like here. And even if you just defend the side that's his most likely entry point, you don't have to get a full rapier base. Just the most likely entry side is probably enough. Because at minimum he'll show you his medevac, so you'll have time to react to it. And if he's not paying attention, he may just fly right over the missile turret and lose the medevac. So despite my pretty awesome harass up here, where I got Banshees with combined kill count of like 15-20 SCVs, I was actually far behind just because I didn't defend this. And really, this is why it's this problem. What do I have to defend at this point? I got 5 Marines and 2 Banshees just because I rallied in my own base. If I had them rallied up to his base, it would have been even worse. And he was actually late with his blue flames. Often the blue flames come as you're just moving out for your Banshee harass, so it can hit you before you hit him. And then when you're off microing somewhere else, stuff like this can happen. You're like, oh shoot, that attack warning had nothing to do with my Banshees. Yep, so keep scouts on his base, nice to keep a Marine out at the Xel'Naga if there's a good Xel'Naga, and one outside of his base for sure. Anytime you can see his push coming, that means you can move out with your Banshees and kind of harass the push as it's coming in. Try to waste up some scans, try to snipe off a siege tank, and then by the time it reaches you, it's at half strength, and you got your fortress waiting for it. Anyways, I think we're calling it end to this video, but we'll jump into a thumbs up fact of the day. Alright.
My patience is limitless. Release the interceptors.
Alright, for today's thumbs up fact of the day, I'm going to just test something out I don't even know myself. So if you're anything like me, you'll send your SCV scout to your opponent's base, and it'll die before you even look to see what's going on there. So you'll take a look in the fog of war and you're like, okay, Protoss is constructing a structure and I see a little glowing ball. That could be anything. I have no idea. I should have been paying attention. So I'm going to see if you can actually figure out what a structure is just by looking at it in the fog of war. Obviously the Protoss you can't. They all just have a little glowing ball thing when it's in construction. Obviously if the glowing ball is like here, like right up against another structure, it has to be a small structure like a pylon or like a Dark Templar archives or whatever it's called. But for Terran and Zerg, maybe you can actually tell. Maybe the stuff looks different. So I'm just going to try building barracks and command center. Do this one a little bit more. Alright, so obviously the command center is bigger, so that one's easy to tell. But what about a factory and a starport? Maybe they look the same or different? I don't know. So it appears that the construction images for these structures are all pretty much identical at the start. Is the starport slightly bigger, or is that just me? That's probably just a perspective thing. Try an engineering bay and an armory as well.
What's going on? In the rear with the gear. Huh? Gotcha.
Okay, so it appears to me that the animation for these support structures, engineering bay, armory, and I'm guessing Ghost Academy, might be a little bit smaller. Nope, Ghost Academy is big.
What's going on?
So it's not very obvious, but it is there.
Yo.
So if it's slightly larger, it could be Ghost Academy, Barracks, Factory, or Starport. I think they're all about the same size animation, but these two here definitely look smaller, the engineering bay and the armory. So if you just get a good feel for that, and you miss what you don't get to click on the structure when you're scouting and your SCV dies, you can actually tell if it's one of these smaller guys. Just let me build these a little bit longer. Maybe they get bigger, and then just making this all up in my head. Nope, they stay small. Okay, so you can't tell much from Terran's construction, but it's a little bit of information. So I guess we'll try it with these guys. Put the spawning pool, Evo chamber, roach, bailing. What else we got here? Hydroden. Nidus. Infestation. Spire's smaller, so you can definitely tell that one's different. And yeah, these animations look all the same. So it looks like there's no way to tell what a Zerg structure is unless it just happens to be a smaller structure, like a spine crawler is obviously smaller, so you get a smaller structure. Mutalisk Den, or whatever it's called. Spire, thank you. That's a smaller animation, but any 3x3 building for Zerg is going to look identical. So I don't even think I have to test Protoss. I mean, everything looks the same. It's all just those glowing balls. Yeah. So with Protoss, there's no way to tell what you're looking at if it's a constructing building in the fog of war. With Zerg, there's no way to tell except for the size of the structure. Obviously, a 2x2 is going to be a smaller blob than a 3x3 structure. And with Terran, just the engineering bay and armory look a little bit different. Obviously, the 2x2 structures look different as well. Maybe a bunker. I haven't tried that one yet. Yeah, it looks small as well. So these three structures are small. The armory, engineering bay, and armory. Anything else I haven't tried? Oh, maybe the fusion core? Although you probably won't be SCV scouting a fusion core at the beginning of the game. Just putting it out there. And then the production structures, the barracks, the factory, and the starport are slightly larger construction models. You can see in the takes up a little bit bigger space than the those 4 support buildings. So that wasn't the results I was hoping for. I was hoping maybe like the animation was completely different between a factory and a barracks, because that would actually help a lot when I fail my scouting, or I fail paying attention to my scout. But this is better than nothing, and it's a little bit of knowledge that I have now that I didn't have before, and so do you guys. So thank you everyone, and goodbye. That's totally the wrong key. I pressed 2 F keys with my fat finger and I still missed it.